No, I did it again. Okay, I'm going to let it play once more because I can't get the timing right. There we go. Okay. Okay. How you going, mate? Okay.
All good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, I'm just going to do this as if there's someone actually watching outside of us. So I'll probably at some points through this refer to them and talk to them, but I've put a little thing over the counter so I can't actually see if anyone's watching.
Right.
And I've smashed it today with the shares, so there might be a few, but it'll just be friends and family. Um, and I think before we start too, I wanted to just say thank you because I don't actually like you mightn't actually see the repercussions of this session of what you're doing in this moment. I know three people just immediately today that have lost someone in the last few weeks and months, um, and I know that this will touch them in some way, and also everyone else that's lost someone in some way. Um, so I just wanted to like personally say thanks for coming on and and be willing to take a look at what's actually going on.
No problem. Hopefully, we can get to the bottom of something, and I can, you know, find something positive.
Yeah, yeah. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Um, this is not an intellectual enterprise, too. Okay, we're not we're not trying to work something out. I'm not trying to give you some sort of answers about something, what I think, or anything like that. All we're going to do is I'll just ask you like what the situation is, what the story is that's been going on, and then as you're telling me, I'll just get you to feel into your body quite a lot. Um, so we can even do a rest at the start, a little meditation. Let's see, um, and then and then what we're doing is we're just opening to this space of what's actually here. Suffering is this movement away from what's here, and generally what's here is this story that's happening in the mind, some thought, and it might start out quite sort of outside of you, but then it will start to filter into this idea that you have about yourself or something that you're afraid of, or I don't know where it's going to go to. um, and then also with the sensations in the body, once we move towards them and give them a little bit of space and allow them to be here as best as we can, then they'll start moving and becoming other things and like giving us insights as well. So you're comfortable?
Yeah, as comfortable as I can be in my son's bedroom.
Okay. Okay, well that's good. um, okay, well I'm really comfortable, so so we talked just before this about maybe doing something after. So so you'll at the end of this you'll realize that the comfort is important in this. Um, so you want to tell me what's going on?
Uh, yeah. So a friend of mine, Joe, who I've known for maybe 11, 12 years, um, died of cancer in, I guess it was October or beginning of November.
Yeah.
Um, and I, okay, let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
So during COVID, there was an album came out by a band called Tongue,
Okay.
Tunng, and it's called, I think it's called Dead Club. And it's every song on the album is a different way of looking at death, whether it's a celebration or whether you can't deal with it and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was obsessed with the album. I must have listened to it once a day for the whole year after it came out. It was brilliant. The lyrics are mind blowing. There's sort of little conversations in it and everything like that. So I thought I had a pretty good grasp of death, how I was going to feel if somebody died that I knew, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then we found out 18 months ago that Joe had cancer, and it was stage 3, and the doctor had said they can operate and everything. And then by the time he got to the pre-operation checks, it had moved to stage 4 and they could no longer operate. So I, in a way, have been lucky that I was unemployed last year, because it meant I got to meet up with Joe for lunch once a month, chat with him about life, what was going on, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And Joe is the most positive person ever. He dealt with it in a way that I couldn't imagine I would or anybody else would.
Yeah.
Amazing human being. He had his 60th birthday party in May last year. Big party in the centre. My covers band played. We had a good night,
Yeah.
And then we went. There's 4 of us who, for the previous 5 years, had gone on a guys' trip away for a weekend. We've been, Tallinn, Riga, a couple of places in Finland. So we went to Tampere, so we didn't have to go too far. And then as soon as he got back, that was pretty much it. He went downhill and was gone within a month. And I was okay. I was doing just fine.
Yeah.
Until the funeral.
Yeah.
And then it really hit me that, I wasn't his best friend, and I, I don't know. There's just this, because I was in the loop with everything through the whole process, and when he first died, a friend of mine, I felt he was going to crumble, and I really, I was really there for him. And then the funeral came, and the roles sort of reversed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it to hurt quite as much as it does. And he's one of my first thoughts in a day,
Okay.
every day.
And so it's still hurting. The hurt's still there.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's worse because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for this reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand, like the shock of it. Mm. Okay, so can I ask you, just in this moment, can you go to that hurt? Can you go to that place of hurt? And so the way you might want to do that, if it's not sort of available, is just close your eyes and just feel into your body. And maybe it's here and maybe it's not. And just bring him up into your mind, whether it's the funeral or an image of him into your mind.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and so I'm going to go along here a little bit too, because this is self-inquiry, and your story, it's reminding me of something too, actually. When I first moved to Finland, I moved into a summer cabin, and it was out near Pohja, and there was a landlord that lived just up the hill, and he died while we were there, and I barely knew him at all, but I ended up going to the funeral, and the weight of it hit me really quite hard as well. So I've got, and it was at the funeral as well as when I really got hit quite hard. And so as you're doing this, you're bringing this person up into your mind. What happens in the body? Do you feel this hurt that you've been experiencing?
Yeah, there's certainly, yeah, there's a weight.
Yeah. Okay, and so we just sit here a little bit with that weight. The usual movement is to move away from it, and we just notice what's coming up into the mind.
I think in that respect, I'm quite lucky because most of the memories I have with him are either good memories or ridiculously funny moments.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it sort of it eases the the
The
the
feeling.
difficult times.
Mm. Okay, so as you sit here and you're feeling that sense of weight, and maybe that those memories come through and they ease it a little bit. Um, but I just wonder, is there a problem? Is there a problem with anything that's here? Is there a problem with that feeling?
I think it's an unusual feeling because I think I've lost a fair amount of people in my life,
Mm.
but I don't think any of them have been as significant and um, somebody who had so much time to listen and be a part of what was going on. You know, it wasn't just for me. He was a big pillar of our sort of English speaking community in Helsinki.
Yeah,
So I, in a way, feel everybody else's loss as well. I'm not burdening myself with their loss, but I do, you know, every time I see anybody from that community, it's still sort of there's a nerve there that you don't want to touch because it's a bit too raw still, you know.
yeah,
Um, and I, there's certainly other people who are feeling the same way as me about this. I know. Um,
okay. And what wouldn't like? What's that nerve about? What wouldn't you want to touch there? Like, what is it that you're not able to say to them?
I, I guess I feel uncomfortable because I don't know how the other people are dealing with it, and I think death is one of those subjects that you tread quite lightly around. I mean, well, we used to work together, so you know I'm quite laid back and I take the piss a lot and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And this is about the only subject that I really don't.
Yeah,
You know, it's one of those that I know can really offend people if you say the wrong thing, um, and I don't feel I can be light-hearted about this, which I
mm,
can with everything else. It feels like a like as I say, like a weight. I can't shift it. I can't be light-hearted about this.
mhm. Okay. So, like hearing what you're saying, it reminds me of another story. Actually, it's interesting. The depth will come as we just stay with that sense of weight that's here, and it's turning back in towards. I mean, the question ultimately here is what's your feeling about death, your own death? Um, but this is reminding me of when my grandmother died, and I remember I cried so hard. I was really, really young, and I cried so hard. And then at some point, I stopped and realized that, oh, I'm crying for myself. At the start, I thought I was crying for her because she died and but then I just realized that, oh, I'm crying for myself here. I'm
Mm,
feeling my own loss here.
yeah, yeah.
And then actually, I recognized as well that her dying actually made me think about my own death. And that's where the seriousness came in. And that's where I needed to sort of explore it a little bit more for myself.
Mm. I think there may be a part of that because certainly when we were away on our trip, um, I really saw his pain. There were you know, there was a moment where he was really struggling, and they'd given him some oxycodone to take the
Yeah.
pain away. But half an hour after he took that, he was tripping out of his mind, which, you know, was horribly sad when we couldn't have a conversation, but also a little bit funny in the fact that he was, which is inappropriate, I know, but that's where we go with my sense of humour. But it was seeing somebody in that much pain, I think, was probably quite difficult.
Yeah.
And we did visit him in the hospital a couple of times as well. Or it wasn't a hospital; it was like a end of days care place, and that was hard because he woke up as we arrived,
Mm.
and it took him 20-25 minutes to be able to actually focus on anything. He'd start a sentence and then he'd pause. And 2 or 3 minutes later, he'd carry on. And it literally was 2 or 3 minutes. It wasn't just an uncomfortable silence, it was an unbearable silence.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, in terms of what you were saying about my own death,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that because it won't bother me. You don't experience your own death, you experience other people's death.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about death. I'd like it not to be long and painful and drawn out, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's not something I've been fearful of for many years. It's fine.
What about this time before though? Like when you know that you're going to die. Like I understand what you're saying about once death is happened, then you know,
Not a lot you can do, is there?
then who knows, what's going to happen after or whatever the case is. That
Mm.
it's probably the last thing on your mind, your own death, but that leading up to it. I guess I'm trying to explore a little bit. You've got this feeling, this heaviness, and I'm just trying to see what stories might be connected to it, what might be keeping it in place, and yeah, that's with the questions. That's why I'm asking.
Mm. Yeah. Well,
And it might be the case here too. Can you tell me about this feeling of heaviness? I know you mightn't have looked at it like this either, but is it in a particular part of the body?
it's definitely a sort of heart area. It's
Yeah,
it's sort of a heavy. Yeah, it's a chesty sort of.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Heart lungs kind of.
Okay, and these questions might sound a bit strange, but it's the Quack Show. So, um, does it have a shape? The sensation?
No, no, I would say it's just a lump, sort of a, you know,
Yeah, yeah. In this area.
yeah.
Okay, and then what's your relation to it? Do you feel yourself wanting it to move away? How do you feel about it? If it was a feeling, what would it be?
It's strange because it's, in a way, it's not something I want to lose
Mm,
because it's not, um, I don't know, maybe it feels comfortable that it's there and I feel like it should be there maybe.
yeah,
But on the other hand, it's maybe as I said earlier, because I wasn't expecting it to be there, that it bothers me.
Yeah. So what do you think it means? And feel into it now. Connect into it a little bit. Let it talk. What would it say to you?
That I'm not the strong guy I thought I was going to be over this. I was expecting another friend of mine to really suffer and it to go on for a long time and me to support him, the one I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And it ends up that I'm not as I don't know what the word is.
Stay there, it will come.
Yeah.
And you're about to say what you're not, but then my next question is just going to be, what is it though? What is it that you are in this situation? How do you see yourself?
Maybe I've been a bit blasé about things in the past.
Yeah.
And about people and relationships.
Yeah.
And I think because apart from losing grandparents and sort of distant friends, this is possibly the first really close person to me that I've lost, and I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Mm.
I didn't expect it to be something that would be there every day, something that there'd be little things that would trigger it and little.
Yeah, but you're like dancing around a little bit of what it actually is. So I want you to go to a specific moment that you can remember where it came up. Okay,
Well,
so
it was the funeral was the time that it reared its head. It hadn't been there before that.
yeah,
I think I was the person pressing play on the songs at the funeral,
yeah,
and he was a very big fan of music, and The Who in particular, and he picked 3 songs where the lyrics were so exactly of that moment.
yeah.
Um,
Can you take yourself back there?
and I bet the bugger knew it would set me off as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe you could tell me some of the lyrics.
Not off the top of my head.
Mm.
But there
Well,
was,
it's close, man. It's close to coming. I can see it.
yeah.
What
No,
is it? Is
the
it a grief
songs.
that's here?
Sorry.
Is it a fear? Is it a grief that's here? Is it a fear that's here?
Oh, there's definitely a sense of loss.
Yeah,
It's yeah, it's grief. It's knowing I will never talk to him again.
yeah,
Knowing I'll never have his completely biased, unbiased opinion,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
yeah. What
Um,
else would you miss? What else aren't you going to have anymore?
um, the laughter,
Mm.
the just everything really. It's the brutal honesty.
Yeah,
The there's not many people in my life that I would actually listen to everything they say, you know, even if I know it's complete crap as well sometimes,
yeah,
Um, and alongside him being a wonderful friend and everything, he could also be bloody annoying. But I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think
No,
everybody's like that in their own way.
no.
So yeah, maybe just that sense of loss, that sense of never being able to talk to him again. You know.
It sounds like you've actually found something good here, which is really strange for me. Um, mm. It sounds like you found like you want to keep this sense of loss because it's going to remind you to be more with people. Like just from what you've been saying, um, not to be blasé, as you said, with
Mm,
people.
I think
And you also said that you wanted to keep this as well, which is interesting. It's a
well,
bit,
Joe, when he found out that he had cancer, and
mm,
then when he found out a little later that he had terminal cancer, he was determined to live every moment of the rest of his life.
yeah,
You know, he flew off to the UK a few times and he went over to see his brother in Switzerland, and he really made the most of the rest of his time.
yeah,
Um,
as you would, I imagine.
yeah, and I think it's my procrastination gets the
Yeah,
better of me so often
yeah,
that in a way I want to hold on to that to remind me that I should get up and do something with the day. Even if I just tick off one tiny task on my task list, I'm
yeah,
moving forward. And I think seeing him in that last year, I really want to make my driving force for being a better version of me.
yeah.
So
Do,
that's why I don't want to let go, I think.
but do you think though that? Hmm, well, I assume he wasn't productive. I assume he just enjoyed every moment. I think, is there? It's interesting as well. It's interesting that as well. The idea of being productive and becoming something, and it's. I'm recognizing that within myself that it's actually, it's more important for me at the moment to be joyous, and 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 the what stems from that is better. And if I do die tomorrow, then I've lived the day, and I can say I'm happy. I'm happy to go. And I don't know if productivity actually comes into that equation at all. I mean, there's things I need to do, but even that, it's not so serious that if I didn't do them, I would still be okay. Um, hmm. I'm wondering if this is actually a problem for you. Here's an interesting little thing we can do,
Mm,
right? Is the reason that he was able to um, sort of become the way that he became was because he fully brought into his mind and his body, and he had to come to some sort of acceptance of I'm going to die.
mm.
And and I think, like, we tend to forget that tomorrow might not come. So so one interesting, I don't know, maybe little experiment we can do, maybe we can do it together, is to just imagine ourselves dying. Imagine losing all the things that we're going to lose, because it's coming, and we don't really know what it means. We've got ideas. Maybe it means that we might not see someone. It means for the Christians they're going to hell. It means, for the reincarnation people, that's what's going to happen. Um, it's an interesting experiment just to do too, to see what you actually believe is going to happen. So, are you okay just to close your eyes?
Mhm.
Yeah. So close your eyes and just get a feeling of like your shoulders and your arms. Get a feeling of that chest area. You were saying there was that little lump there, so just notice that that's there. Notice that you might see that in your mind too as a little lump. And then bring some attention down into the belly. Notice that sense of breathing and how that moves the belly. Notice your nose and your face and your ears and your chin. Notice the top of your head and the back of your spine. And notice the sense of sitting at the moment. Notice the feeling of your legs and maybe your feet on the ground as well. And then just imagine what it's like to die. What do you think is going to happen? How will your family feel? Maybe even how would Joe feel if the tables were turned? Like what things would he go through? Would he be the one pushing the play button on the stereo at your funeral? And I'm just gonna share with you what happens for me is I see my body in the casket, and it's a white casket, and like I look around into the audience, or the gallery, I don't know what it's called, into the church, let's say, and I see different people like with tears and crying, and I see my wife there, and she's very sad. And then what happens is I turn around and I look at the image of myself in this casket, and I feel a sadness of having to leave Luke, to having to leave this body and leave my life and leave my house and friends and family. And then the curious part of this is what happens to this lump that's there. Is it affected by these images, by this exercise?
Um, I struggle with that one a little bit. Because for me, I believe that's kind of it when you die. There is nothing more.
Yeah.
So I kind of went to quite an empty place when you said that.
Yeah.
Um,
How was it to be there, though? To be in the emptiness?
There's a little bit of me that's a little bit twisted, and kind of the just the space and the being on my own and the freedom is kind of nice. That might be just from having 3 children who are all a bit crazy, but
Yeah.
I mean, I can sense the pain that the family would be in, obviously.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, I don't.
But you're okay.
Yeah.
So go back in a little bit. Go back in again.
Mm.
Now, this time, I want you to go back through the funeral with Joe, and imagine Joe being, in that space, or let Joe go to wherever Joe's going to go. Is the imagination different in
I
that
don't
situation?
think so. I think he had exactly the same thought. He was non-religious. He had a non-religious service with no vicar or anything there, and I think it's not something we actually talked about, I guess, because it was almost so relevant we shouldn't talk about it, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
But I don't think he's probably the same as I just had. That was it.
Yeah.
Lights off,
Yeah.
shut the door on your way out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that lump say to all of this, though? Like, it comes into me that lump is, I don't know, maybe it's coming in my feeling that there is something else, that we don't say goodbye, some sort of hope, or I don't know.
It feels quite personal. This lump, it's mine. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
it's my pain or issue to deal with.
Yeah.
It's not an issue to deal with is the wrong term, but it's sort of my, I don't want to say burden because that's not what it is,
No.
but it's my, it's almost like the lump is the memory in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting. I think that's actually what happens, is that we have these sensations that happen through the life, and then they get stuck to memories, um, like the sensation of, say, fear or loss or anything. It's some sensation that's in the body that's connected with the thought or the memory of loss, and we keep revisiting that through the life. And it's interesting to me that you've sort of recognized that, oh, there's a part of me that wants this, that it is a part of me, and that it's giving me something. So maybe that's the next question. What is it? What is it giving you? I mean, the purpose of this, I think, is, yeah, to talk. I think we're like, it's interesting to explore this with you. But then also, we started with this idea of understanding a little bit what was going on. And I don't know if you've, like, you might have recognized something here, and that you want to keep it in some regard, that it's like, mm, that it's shown you a different sort of side of yourself in terms of what you thought you'd be, and then the actuality of it. So, what about this question of what is it giving you to keep this?
I want to say it's keeping me humble, but I don't think that there's ever been a time where I wasn't a humble person.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got an ego,
Yeah.
but that doesn't.
How is it doing that, though? Is it reminding you that death is around the corner, and then
Yeah,
we're coming back
reminding me
around?
that things aren't. Life is finite,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, which again doesn't bother me,
Yeah.
but maybe I needed reminding of that. Maybe, I'd taken things. I had definitely taken things for granted too much,
Yeah.
and it's just reminded me, as you've said a couple of times tonight, that it could all be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, so maybe the last question in this is, how can you actually use this? Like how can you have a relationship to it that's sort of towards it, rather than, oh, this is here, getting up in the morning, and, oh, this is here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that it's got these different qualities to it. It's something that's reminding you of something maybe that's not so nice, the
but how
finite.
can I? how can I use it as a positive rather than?
Well, maybe like if you want it there, then it's doing something for you. And I don't know, like it's interesting for me. I got this thought that I should, everything just clears out with me. You know, if I had this problem, I would recognize, I'd do exactly this, right? I'd go, oh, there's a heaviness here. I feel it in my chest. I would notice where it is. I'd feel it in my chest. I'd notice that, that maybe it's got some sort of symbol or there's an image of it in my mind. And that's how I know it's a um, what was the word you used? Um, well, that's how I noticed that it's a. I forgot the word you used. Like a lump,
Mm.
right? So you know it's a lump, and then the thought actually comes through your mind. Either it's a verbal thought, or you see the image of it in your mind. And then I would sit with that, and I would just say, well, "What's this about? What is this saying about me?" And as I sit with it, it would start to like release the different thoughts and memories of what it's about, of what it's here for. Maybe it comes with some fear. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel that, so I can't. I can't connect to it. But that's what I would do. I'd let it like talk to me and tell me what's here, and that would bring the understanding, and then it would just dissipate. It would move and become something else because I've let the sensation be here, and I've let the thoughts just arise, and I've followed them all the way to the end, and then they've just fallen away. And then once that meaning is gone from the sensation, from the lump, then the lump doesn't, it ceases to be a lump. Do you know? It ceases to have that meaning on it. And
Mm-hmm.
then it just moves, becomes something else. But it sounds like you're like wanting it to be there. And to me that's an interesting thing. Um, all right, so like let's come back into the start again. How's the feeling at the moment?
Calm, not anything.
No.
It's not. It's no great weight. It's
Okay, so you're feeling like a less at the moment, less of that weight. Is
yeah.
that what you're saying?
Maybe it is easier when it's talked about. It's you know um,
Well, what about if we go back to the start and bring in this image of Joe again?
mm,
So often there's, I don't know, there's things that we don't, maybe we don't say, we're not able to say. You've said a few times that there's been these things with your friends and with him that you've maybe not been able to talk about because of the obviousness of the situation.
mm.
So maybe see in this moment with the image of him here, if there's something that you wanted to just say to him. I like to do this myself, right? I like to bring the image of my grandparents in, let's say my grandmother, and it's always comes in a little bit differently, and at the start when I felt pain, part of it was about not being able to express things to them, like holding things back, being really young and not really knowing what was going on, and not being able to deal with the emotion either. You're like bawling your eyes out and you can't say, like, all you can get out is I love you or I miss you or don't go. Like I remember my grandfather when he was dying, he called me into the hospital, the bed, and everyone else had gone outside. And I said, "Are you okay?" And I was about, I don't know, 7. And he said to me, "I'm dying." And I just I couldn't fathom it.
Mm.
And I remember just giving him a hug and saying, "No, no, you're going to be okay." But that was the last time I spoke to him. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye, or the thoughts about what was actually going to happen, were probably just running around in my mind, and the repercussions of death as well. Like you're talking now about this idea of there being nothing when you end, and um, it's interesting. It's interesting too to bring in the opposite idea of that, and just go, you know what? What if there is reincarnation, or what if I don't end? Then what? How will I feel then? And explore those different sort of avenues. So when whatever happens, you're not in a shock. You're not in a surprised, or you're like open to all the possibilities, rather than being a bit, of a tunnel.
Mm.
Just as a thought. But
I I have certainly explored those in the past.
yeah,
It is something I've studied briefly, at least.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So if you bring Joe back in, and you bring in this memory of being at the funeral, how is it to go through that this time?
It's certainly easier now looking back at it because
Mm.
I've that emotion is burnt. I've done that bit. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? I've moved forwards from that. That was certainly the hardest 30 minutes.
yeah,
Um, and probably because I'm not an emotional person in public generally.
yeah,
Um, and it all came out
yeah,
in front of everyone, which was very unexpected.
yeah. Okay, interesting, interesting. So, is there embarrassment there with that? Were you okay with being able to?
I no, I'm fine with it. There was no embarrassment. It was just a shock, um,
Mhm.
um, a sort of lack of understanding of what had just happened in a way,
Yeah.
because I didn't think I would be the one to do that.
Mm. Okay, so can you go back there again? Sorry to keep going, but can you see yourself in that moment?
Mm, yeah, very easily.
Yeah, okay. So can you stay there with that image, and notice this sensation that was here, this lump, and
No,
see if that.
that wasn't there then.
No.
No, that's
Okay, so what comes with that image of seeing you in that sort of predicament? What comes in terms of the body? What's the feeling that comes with that?
um, it was like a weight being lifted off my shoulder.
Mm.
Maybe I'd tried to be too strong about it for too long,
Yeah,
and it was that lifting of, oh, you know, almost a burden, almost a
yeah.
uh, just having held on to something for too long.
Mm. Do you feel that again as you see that image in your mind, as you go back to that memory?
To a certain degree, yeah. There is a sort of, yeah, an easy.
Okay, okay, okay. It's interesting. Okay, and so do you remember when this feeling came of this lump, or
It's
this heaviness?
it's just it's there, and sometimes it's strong and heavy, and sometimes it's quite light and easygoing.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes I'm not aware it's there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like things like this, because are you saying that it came only after the funeral, that it wasn't there before?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I think the weight of the occasion and the weight of the realization
Yeah.
certainly happened afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, look, some things it takes a while for for the understanding to come, for the like, there's still things within myself that I go through and I feel, and new insights come and new understandings come, but I can't always go through to the end of it. Let's say the full understanding. Um, but something I would suggest that you do is in those moments when you feel it, is to get a little bit more, um, uh, like, is to spend a little bit more time with it. So particularly notice what's going on in the body, and just sit in that kind of open space. Okay, what is this? What is this about? And let the mind just bring up different meanings, and yeah, you just sit there, and it will bring different things up, and maybe you can get a bit better understanding of what it's about. Mm. Okay, but I got the feeling that we're kind of getting towards the end. How's your feeling?
Mm, yeah.
How's your feeling been going through this? I've enjoyed sitting with you. It's it's interesting to talk about death, and sometimes it's really really serious. I know within myself, I have this feeling of like, oh, tomorrow could be the last day, or but then other times it's really quite light. I don't think about it.
See, I never have that with myself. It doesn't, it
Yeah,
really isn't any sort of factor in my thoughts about me. It's about
yeah,
other people more than anything.
yeah,
Um, there's an element of this where I think about the other people I could lose, maybe, and maybe that's part of it. Is there's it's made me realise who the important people are to a certain degree,
yeah.
um, and maybe think more about them than I did previously. But certainly, it's given me a new way to think about things, um, and yeah, I was intrigued as to where this was going to go. So yeah.
I wish a little bit within myself that I had something a bit closer that I could do the session for myself with you. Um, and as I said, I've got sort of three people at least I know that have lost someone in the last like months, let's say, and I did lose a friend, a relative, a few months ago, um, but I'd not met him, so it hit me quite hard. But as I as I kind of went through it, it was more the idea of how his death has affected people that I do know.
Mm, yeah.
So yeah, it was quite heavy grief, but I don't have the feeling of it at the moment. So,
Mm.
but hey, I'm going to, yeah, I'll end the stream and we can just have a little bit of a chat at the end. Um, oh, hey, do you want to? Is there anything? Uh, I was gonna say about like a bit of a plug, but do you want to? We can put something in the comments of the video when it comes out, if you like.
Sure.
Try
Yeah.
try and do that for everyone. It just doesn't seem maybe the best, like the most appropriate moment to plug something after we just sat here for an hour talking about
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, the thing I want to plug is a cultural podcast, and
Yeah, yeah,
Joe was a Punch and Judy man in Helsinki, so he was certainly into culture for kids and everything. So,
yeah. So it is appropriate.
well, yeah, in a strange way, it is. Yeah.
Okay, tell us about it.
Um, Cultural.hell with one L.
Yeah,
It's a cultural podcast about Helsinki, English speaking Helsinki.
English
Things you
speaking.
can do, food, music, theatre, travel,
Yeah,
whatever there's going on, we're trying to explore it. Me and my co host Heather. Heather deals with travel and food, and I'm heavy on the music, theatre,
you're the
art
music
side of
man.
things. It's worth checking out. You'll find things you're interested in. You'll find things you're not. So
Yeah,
have a look.
yeah, and we'll put something in the comments underneath the or in the description of the video.
Yeah, I can give you the link tree so everybody can find a social media they like.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
Perfect.
good. We'll do that after, okay? Stay
Yeah,
on, don't go anywhere.
yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, interesting, interesting. I don't know. I think there's maybe a few more sessions there to get to that heart of that lump in Dan's chest. I think it's interesting. Like it's really interesting the idea of us wanting suffering at some point. Wanting that feeling of heaviness and that sometimes it's a little bit left and right. Sometimes we want to get rid of something, but but sometimes we want to keep it too. I think it's the same with procrastination too. Dan, myself, is that in my mind I've got this thought about I want to do something, but the actuality is I want to do something else. So there's some sort of disconnect
Mm,
going on. I
yeah.
don't think it's. I think that's the like the crux of it. That's where the understanding will come in. Is is exploring what I'm actually doing rather than what I think I should be doing. But
Mhm.
that's another stream, and I'm sure you'll all see Dan again at some point in the future. Um, yeah, for some other little topic. But hey, mate, thank you. I appreciate it,
Thank you.
and take it easy, everyone.